I am engaged in that I study abnormal phenomena, and once, sitting in the internet late at night and looking through various articles about unusual facts, I suddenly came across one interesting note about a strange disappearing house in a small town near Idaho and about its unusual inhabitant. I did not find much information on the internet about this house. All information was based on the stories of 4 young people from the same town. According to them, the house just disappeared and appeared. I was very hooked by this fact and wanted to know more about it immediately. There was only one option: to go there myself. I had 2 friends who were also interested in abnormal phenomena, and they immediately agreed to come with me to that town. I was scared to go alone. What if it was true, and the disappearing house really exists and is not the drunken ravings of some local alcoholics or just a bad joke? We hit the road the very next day. Almost as soon as we left, something strange began to happen to the car. First the navigator failed, then all the gauges lit up. Our phones weren't picking up the network. We had to get the car back up and running, and it took a long time. We continued on our way toward evening. It was getting dark fast. We arrived in the village when it was quite dark. We had no detailed description of where the house was, so we decided to walk to ask the locals. Strangely enough, the streets were completely empty. Not a single person came out to meet us. We tried knocking on the doors of a few houses, but no one opened, although the light was on in the windows, and the residents were clearly in their homes. We were already desperate, and suddenly we got lucky. We met 2 young guys. We immediately started asking them about that mysterious house, and the guys, strangely enough, were eager to tell us about it. Apparently they were bored. The eyewitness account on the internet turned out to be true. The house really did exist. The house had been empty for a long time, and no one lived in it. Suddenly, out of the blue, an old man moved into the house. The only thing we knew about him was that his wife had recently died. The old man didn't want to talk to anyone. The locals at first tried to talk to him, treated him kindly, but the old man just ignored everyone. Over time, the old man's character deteriorated even more. He was constantly grumbling. It was impossible to walk past him. The old man was sure to throw insults in his wake. He would even rush at the children with a stick, after which they would try to avoid the house. Sometimes the old man would sit for hours near his yard and stare silently at the end of the street in a kind of frustration, without averting his gaze. As time passed, the old man's house began to fall apart more and more. The house was overgrown with weeds, the roof was crumbling, the fence was sagging, the gate fell down altogether. But often devilry of sorts began to happen in the house. At night, the inhabitants could hear cheerful voices coming from the house, as if a big family was gathering there to celebrate. Often one could hear songs being sung there. It was shocking. Everyone knew that the old man lived all alone. He had no one came to see him. Some inhabitants of the settlement tried to listen to the conversations, but nobody could make out the words or the songs. And then the house disappeared. It first happened when a local fisherman was returning home from fishing at night. He wanted to get home sooner, so the fisherman took a shortcut by walking past the ominous house. As he passed by, the fisherman tried not to look in the direction of that house, but still he turned his head, and what he saw just knocked him off his feet. There was no house. There was a crooked fence, a fallen gate, even the bench on which the old man always sat was also there. But the house itself was gone. The fisherman immediately ran towards his house, along the way telling his neighbors about the missing damn house, and soon almost the whole village was on its feet. Of course, no one believed the fisherman, but still a crowd of residents went to see the house to see for themselves whether the fisherman was lying or not. When they got there, they saw that the house was just as it had been. After scolding the hapless witness to the disappearing house, the crowd dispersed. But soon almost everyone in the village knew that the fisherman hadn't lied that night. The house began to disappear every night. As soon as the sun disappeared over the horizon, the house simply evaporated. No one went to the place anymore. People were scared. Soon the old man died. Exactly 3 days after his death, the house burned down. It could not be extinguished. The house simply burned to the ground. By dawn, all that was left of the house was a charred wreck. Those remains are still there today. We found the place where the house used to be, but it was overgrown with ivy, so we could hardly see anything. There was a bright lantern hanging on the road opposite. Apparently, the residents were afraid because many saw that now, sometimes at night, the ghost of this house appears, along with its inhabitant. The old man's ghost sits on the porch and stares silently at the end of the street.